This Republican rescissions package will undermine America's national security, undermine public health here in this country and across the world. And it actually represents an attack on children. This is extraordinary to me. We're on the floor of the House of Representatives, not debating legislation that is designed to make this country and our economy more affordable, but actually debating legislation that targets Elmo and Big Bird and Daniel Tiger and Sesame Street. That's what we're doing by going after public broadcasting in the United States of America. Sesame Street has a letter of the day. I believe the letter of the day today is C. How appropriate. Because this Republican bill is cruel and it cuts children's programming.
Wow. Just watch that for a second. You've got the House Minority Leader standing at the podium of the United States Congress, holding up a stuffed Elmo doll like he's hosting a morning daycare show instead of managing the budget of the world's largest economy. It's wild to watch the lengths Washington politicians will go to just to avoid talking about real fiscal responsibility. They want to turn a massive federal debt crisis into an emotional debate about cartoon characters, assuming the American public won't see right through the theater. But then Steve Scalise steps up to the mic, and he completely shifts the energy of the room. He doesn't need props. He doesn't need emotional manipulation. He just brings the actual line items of where our money is going. We're going to look at how Scalise injects some serious common sense back into this debate and exposes what's really hidden inside these massive spending bills. Before we roll the full clip and break down the numbers, do me a huge favor. Hit that smash like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new here, and drop a comment below letting me know what you think of this Elmo stunt. Let's dive into the tape.
Democrats on the other side are acting like, oh my God, the world's going to stop spinning on its axis if this spending goes away. So why don't we talk about some of the spending that will go away? Again, borrowed money, not money we just took out of the bank, money we borrowed from countries like China to spend on that is a debt to our kids. So each one of these I list, Mr. Speaker, you should ask. If you vote yes, you're finally relieving that debt burden. But if you vote no, you think it's okay to send this bill to our kids. We're not paying for it today, Mr. Speaker, but our kids would if we keep doing it. If the other side votes no, they want to keep borrowing money from our children to spend $1 million on voter ID in Haiti. The same party that doesn't want voter ID in America calls it racist. Wants to fund voter ID in Haiti. $6 million for net zero cities in Mexico. I know some of their best supporters are waving a Mexican flag in an American city right now, and they support those efforts. Most Americans don't, Mr. Speaker. $3 million for Iraqi Sesame Street. The minority leader held up a Sesame Street character here on the floor, as if Sesame Street's somehow going to go away. I was just watching a commercial on TV yesterday where the Cookie Monster was actually doing an advertisement for Netflix because a private company is paying money to run Sesame Street. It's not going away. It's doing just fine. Very lucrative. What will go away is some of the far left radical views that are being espoused. You can, by the way, when this goes away at NPR, you can still turn on about 6 or 7 other channels and get the same far left radical views, but they're all going to be private companies, Mr. Speaker. So, they can still watch Sesame Street in Iraq, but let the Iraqi people pay for it, not the taxpayers of the United States, of America's children. Today's taxpayers aren't paying for it because it's all borrowed money. $2.1 million for climate resilience in Southeast Asia, Latin America, and East Africa. $500,000 for electric buses in Rwanda. Rwanda's more than free to go buy all the electric buses they want or Diesel buses, why should the taxpayers of America be borrowing money from our children to buy electric buses for Rwanda? $33,000 for being LGBTQI in the Caribbean. Taxpayer money that a no vote today says is more important than strengthening a program like Social Security. I say not. $643,000 for LGBTQI plus programs in the Western Balkans. Borrowed money. $567,000, Mr. Speaker, for LGBTQI plus programs in Uganda. $5.1 million to strengthen the, quote, resilience of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, intersex, and queer global movement. Not sure what that global movement is. They can continue that movement in some other way, but just not with the taxpayer dollars of the United States of America's children.
That is how you control a room and bring the focus back to reality. What Steve Scalise just did is exactly what leadership looks like when the opposition tries to turn Congress into a circus. Think about the contrast here. Hakeem Jeffries is trying to convince everyday Americans that if we look at trimming federal spending, children's television is going to vanish overnight. It's a classic scare tactic. But Scalise cuts right through the noise by asking a very simple, grounded question. Why are American taxpayers borrowing money to fund these incredibly specific global projects? Let's actually look at the things Scalise exposed, because this is where it gets crazy. We are currently living through an economy where working-class Americans are watching every single dollar just to get through the grocery checkout line. Yet our government is literally borrowing money from foreign nations, putting that massive debt right onto the shoulders of our kids, to fund things like $1 million for voter ID programs in Haiti. The irony here is thick. The very same political faction that claims asking for a basic ID to vote in an American election is voter suppression has absolutely no problem shipping millions of your dollars overseas to secure the voting process in another country. The hypocrisy is just staring you right in the face. And then you look at the rest of the list. $6 million for net zero green initiatives in Mexican cities, and millions more for international versions of Sesame Street in Iraq. As Scalise pointed out perfectly, Sesame Street isn't some struggling nonprofit operating out of a basement. It's a massive, multi-million-dollar global media empire pulling in massive streaming licensing deals with giants like Netflix and HBO. They don't need a taxpayer bailout. And they definitely shouldn't be subsidized by families in America who are trying to figure out how to pay their own electric bills. But for me, the most jaw-dropping part of Scalise's breakdown was the $500,000 allocated for electric buses in Rwanda. Think about that for a second. We have people right here at home who can barely afford the gas to commute to work. Our domestic energy grids are facing historic strains. And Washington thinks it's our job to buy electric transit fleets for East Africa. If another country wants to build out an electric bus fleet, they have every right to do so. But it shouldn't be funded by borrowing against the future of American children. That's why Scalise won this debate hands down. He didn't let them hide behind a plush toy. He forced the conversation back to the actual text of the bill and reminded everyone that federal funds aren't just free money floating around. It's money taken out of the pockets of hard-working citizens. It's refreshing to see someone stand up, call out the globalist spending sprees, and demand that Washington start prioritizing the people who actually pay the bills around here. What do you guys make of this? Are you on board with Scalise cutting out these foreign spending projects? Or do you think the government should keep writing these checks? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next breakdown.